All right, welcome back to the channel. So today we're kind of doing something different, and honestly this is going to be for the people that are going to be installing the BNR 67 or 71. And you know, if you want to use it for a reference for other big turbos, you can. I'm making this video to help out the guy that purchased this turbo, and he's going to be installing it himself. Basically, just show you guys the quick rundown of how I would install this turbo kit on the car in order, and you know, from my perspective and what I would know, then make it the most easiest possible way. So when you have all your BNR stuff together, you want to have your axle out of the car below here. So it's going to be like right there. There's your axle shaft. You can see it clears. It's not fully mounted up right there, and I'm not going to tighten it down. So when you get this turbo on, the first thing you're going to want to do is have this mounted up with one of these studs to get it started, and then get the other one on the cross, cross pattern where it's holding the top and the bottom. So you have it like right there. You got one there and one there, cross from each other. That way there it's holding it equally. Leave it loose. That way there you can wiggle it around, because what I believe is going to be the easiest way to do this is you're going to want to hook up your lines. So I pre-mounted all these lines already to line up perfectly. So just remember, I did it with the engine block out of the car. It made it a lot easier. You can really line up on your own without it being, crazy perfect as this back one here, because you got to tighten it down, and but you still got to have it kind of lined up. But you can kind of see how close it is, kind of get a judgment on it. But that's your coolant return line. So anyways, we got it loose on there like that, so it's just wiggling. You can get the other two on there if you really want to. You don't have to. For extra security, it doesn't really matter. But what I would do first is get your oil feed line hooked up, and you can see you don't want to, and you can move your turbo like this and then get it lined up, and you should be able to hand thread that in. So sorry if you couldn't see that. So you want to grab your turbo and just move it. You can wiggle it. If this was tight, you wouldn't be able to wiggle it, so it's going to make it a lot easier having it loose right now. And so you can just move it. Should be able to hand thread that in, kind of put some upward pressure if you have to, and then honestly just pull this back a little bit and then just start threading in. It should go in by hand. Make sure your washers, the new washers they supply, block mating surface and then the banjo bolt mating surface. Hand tighten that down all the way until you can get it. I believe this is a 18 millimeter. Let me check. 18 or 17. I think it's a 17 millimeter. Well, anyways, so get that hand tight. I wouldn't tighten it down quite yet. Just hand tight on there so it doesn't strip out. And then get the one on the block for your feed line for your coolant. So you're going to need an H10 socket. It's going to make it a lot easier removing these. Just so you guys know, get one at your hardware store, H10. Get that one lined up and you should have it pretty well set in there. Same thing, you got your washers, your copper washers, on the inside and outside. And then, just like this right here. And start it on there. Make sure. Now, when you do this, you're supposed to have these all loose before you line everything up. That way there, it's easier to do that. So if you do put it on and you're trying to fit everything, you got to have it all loose on the turbo. And then after, tighten these down. These are torqued to between 20 and 25 foot-pounds. If you're unable to torque them, honestly, I just tighten them down as hard as you can without stripping them out. But yeah, you're just, and then there's this little fucking spacer thing right here that they include for the oil feed line to bring it outward like this. There's a bunch of washers and whatnot on there, and so that just brings it out. So there's like a resting spot right there. You can kind of see it's angled like this, so kind of keep that as a reference, because this is the, like, you know, basically the hardest one to get lined up, because you want it to go on there. You want it to go on there by hand. So and then you got that one on there. You got the oil feed line. Now you're gonna want to get your new line on there. Now you don't have to use the OEM one. You can get a longer, or I mean, you can use the OEM one, but honestly, there could be a little bit extra length in that hose. That's a 1/2 inch hose right there. So I used an O-Tiker clamp. I took off the old one and then just put this one on there. Now you can just use a regular clamp if you really have to. And then this is the OEM clamp that goes on there. Just slide that on there. Use your needle nose and literally just snap it on there. The easy clamps that I use are, so these clamps right here is what I use for all my turbo kit stuff. I'll use this instead of this right here. And so I'll eliminate this clamp and I'll put this on there and have it where it's like upward like that. That way there, it's just a lot easier, because now you're just hand tightening like this. It's honestly pretty insane, so it works great. So you could honestly, you could get these at Advance Auto or Amazon probably, and then you know, put one on here as well if you wanted to, if you don't have O-Tiker clamps. I'm sorry about that sunshine blinding your guys' eyes there. The sun is setting, but yeah, so get that one. And then the worst one really is going to be their oil drain line. Now, see what I notice is this oversized return line is nice. It has the O-rings built into it, which is really nice. But the thing is, it's so fucking stiff. And honestly, the only way I could really find this to work and bend it easily, because it's hard to bend, is you're gonna have to get it mounted on the block first. Make sure you oil up the O-rings too. Don't use WD-40 because they'll just dry, or silicone. Just use regular engine oil. I recommend doing that for all O-rings and seals like that. And then get it where it's screwed on to the block first, because you don't want to strip the block threads out. I've done this personally, and you know, I fucked up, you know, a few times doing this, and you know, figuring out which way is the best. And this is the best way. So I've always done it where it was on the turbo first, and then I forced it onto the block, and you know, I had to redo the holes with some inserts or time certs. So the easiest way to do it and prevent it from doing the stripping out on the block is mount it on the block first where you need it, and then bend it in place and line it up with your turbo, because the turbo center housing is cast iron. It's not aluminum, so it's not gonna strip out as easy, and you can bend it into place. But if you're really having a hard time, honestly, I don't see why you can't use the OEM return line for the oil, because the ATP guys do it all the time, the Garrett stuff, and we reuse the you know, the OEM line, even though this is a lot better because it's a larger size in comparison. So, and it also uses O-rings, and which is really nice. And believe it or not, you can actually use this on the G series Garrett turbo kits for the ATP as well. Like I said, but you're gonna wanna, with those turbos, you're gonna have to need the step down studs, and then so have it on your block, and then have the step down studs, feed it on to those like that, and then thread on the nuts, and it just feeds it up there, which makes it a lot easier to actually start. But yeah, I don't know if you can actually use the step down studs on the B&R from those or not. Maybe it'd make it easier. So that's probably a thought for these, instead of using the OEM style bolts. But yeah, now you just gotta tighten these down, you know, tighten them down as much as you can. I would suggest using a ratcheting wrench, you know, Makes it a lot easier. Use a 13 millimeter ratcheting wrench for all 4 of these. Get this all tightened down. Once you got all the block fittings tightened down and all this tightened down, then tighten down this. And obviously don't forget your gasket. I don't have the gasket in there because I'm just showing an example of how to do this quickly. When it comes to doing your solenoid, you don't have to have this line here, which is going to be a return line back to your intake. You don't need that. So you can actually just vent this to atmosphere, because going back to the intake is this venting it back to the engine instead of the atmosphere. So you can just cap this off like so. It just eliminates the clutter, in my opinion. Just cleans it up better. Also, for these B&Rs, you need a 6-inch long silicone adapter, a 3-inch. So, 3-inch inner diameter, 6 inches long, and then adapt it to your intake that you have. So, other than that, it should be pretty much relatively easy. Once you get your stock turbo out, it's literally just a bigger turbo you're throwing on there. It's the same setup. Just make sure you hook up your lines perfectly. So you got your wastegate line referencing to the top portion right here. So you got your top, literally vent to atmosphere. And then the back portion where your plug is gonna connect, that is where your boost reference is. So just remember that right there. So when it comes to the valve cover solenoid, all you have to do, and I'll show you guys. So this is how I have the boost solenoid mounted on there. I actually changed it up, routed it a little bit better. That way there, the connector can actually connect easier. So I'm thinking probably have it right there. That way there it's not facing downward, because it's going to be harder to reach with that harness. So I took the longer hose, connected it for the reference, and then you got your wastegate hookup. This is going to vent the atmosphere, and probably right there is going to be really good. So what you need to do with this top solenoid, get rid of this line right here, which connects on the stock turbo to this T-fitting right here. This side goes to the compressor housing on the KO3. This T-fitting is connected to this line right here. It's just a boost reference. And then this right here on this side connects to the boost solenoid on the stock turbo. This end here needs to be eliminated as well, because this is what supplies your vacuum or your reference. This actually connects to your stock bypass valve. So when you do the sound supposer and going big turbo, your blow-off valve, you're not going to need this. Get a small rubber 1/4-inch cap this off, take the zip tie it down, as tight as you can. Eliminate this line right here, because the solenoid that I showed you on the turbo, that end that connects to this right here, that's all going to be venting the atmosphere. So you don't need that going to the intake tube. That's not needed. It's just not necessary. And your vacuum source for your blow-off valve is going to be connected to your sound supposer down here. And that's going to supply your true vacuum source. Now, as far as this goes, this is not a boost solenoid. A lot of people think this is a boost solenoid. It's not. It's literally a vacuum solenoid that supplies reference for your bypass valve on your stock turbo. So what it does, it just regulates the vacuum source and allows it to see boost, but it regulates it. And it's not a boost solenoid though, because it has nothing to do with regulating boost at all. It literally just shows a reference for your bypass valve, that's it. And then it draws vacuum via the vacuum pump right here. You can leave that connected, leave that on there, and then just, like I said, eliminate this right here, and then cap this off. Also, so when you go to start your car up, make sure you prime the turbo, the oil in it. So what you want to do is press down your gas all the way down, and then press your clutch all the way down like you're going to start the car. Start it, and it'll literally just prime the oil system, and do it for like 5-10 seconds, and it'll be all set. That way there, it's all primed, and fill your fluids up. Do the oil change while you're doing the big turbo. This makes it a lot easier. You want that fresh oil going through that turbo. And personally, I recommend 5W50 in these engines, even at a stock engine. I ran from 2015 to 2020 5W50 in my big turbo setup, and when I tore the engine apart, the bearings looked like they were brand new. Literally no wear at all. I was using the Amsoil 550. It just gives you the better protection. You don't, the turbos don't like 30 weight oil as it is, because it doesn't really protect from the heat on the bearings, in the journal bearings or ball bearings. So the 40 and 50 weight oil is what they really prefer and really like. So just keep that in mind. Some food for thought there. And, hopefully that helps. And make sure to like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one.